The Justice Department has opened an investigation into the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank. That news comes just a day after President Biden insisted that those responsible will be held accountable and that, quote, no one is above the law. Liz Lopatto is a senior writer at The Verge. She's been covering this story there. Nice to see you, Liz. As of now, no implication that any laws were broken. But what can you tell us about those in charge, including CEO Greg Becker, and all of their responsibility here?
Well, thank you for having me. I think there are a lot of questions about how this went wrong. And I think one of the things that people noticed right away was that senior leadership had recently sold shares in the bank. And presumably they knew what their own balance sheet looked like. And they also knew that the Fed was going to be hiking rates. I think there are some questions around risk management here. I think there are some questions about whether the proposed share sale last week was the right thing to do. And so I don't know that necessarily anybody did anything wrong, but I imagine, given how enormously embarrassing this failure has been, there are going to be a lot of people trying to figure out how it happened.
Yeah, of course, given that no CEOs went to jail as a result of the 2008 financial crisis, still a hard to believe fact. What's your expectation that anything could come of this?
I don't know. I mean, one of the things that I think is true is that the underappreciated risk here is that startup land is very gossipy and the majority of your customers are interconnected. And so I think probably what happened had a lot to do with that kind of risk and a lot less to do with risks around, share sales, risks around whether it was the right time to raise money instead of trying to get debt. But I imagine that, everybody's going to be looking into this. Even the Fed is looking at whether what they did was appropriate. Hi, Jeeves. This is my cat. She has some thoughts.
Hello, Jeeves. Nice to see the cameo from Jeeves. While you corral the cat, let me ask you about California Congressman Maxine Waters, chair of the House Financial Services Committee. She spoke to Yahoo Finance earlier about some of those the share sales we've just referenced. Here's what she told us.
The rumors that are circulating about the stock sale, we're certainly going to take a close look at. It may need to be investigated. And I also understand that there were bonuses that may have been given out early. I don't know that to be fact at this point, but we're going to hold hearings as soon as we possibly can and unravel a lot of what we understand happened.
So whether it's you or Jeeves that handles this question, you make that call. Is it Congress? Is it the DOJ? Is it the SEC? Where does the responsibility in figuring this out lie?
I think everybody is going to want a piece of this. Certainly the SEC is involved, the DOJ is involved, the Fed is involved, and I suspect a lot of Congress is going to be looking to make, at minimum, some good news bites on hearings here. So I think stay tuned because we're still very much in the early days of how this plays out.
And lastly, what about the impact on the tech startup, biotech startup community and innovation as we move forward?
Well, that's a great question. I think we're going to see some changes. I mean, it sounds like right now everybody's getting their deposits, which is good. There are some questions about what's going on with debt. I think there are a lot of companies that are fleeing to much bigger banks, and there are some questions about whether those bigger banks really are going to be able to offer the same kind of products and services that Silicon Valley Bank did, partially because, they may not understand risk models as well. So I think, again, we're in the early days of figuring out how this all shakes out, who the beneficiaries of this might be and what could happen. But I do know that there are certainly people in the Valley who are concerned that there might be more layoffs and other sort of fire sales on startups as a consequence of these actions.
All right, Liz Lapado, thanks so much for joining us there.